What's poppin', everybody? This is the cartoon kid, Ray Rollins, and today I'm dipping back into the classic episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants for you guys and reviewing Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy V, or 5. If you're not familiar with Roman numerals, this is the companion episode of Chocolate with Nuts, which was Season 3, Episode 13, I believe. But if you've been watching for a while, you already know how I do this whole thing, man. Before I start breaking this episode down, I gotta give y'all that episode breakdown to give you a better idea of what's it about, baby. So this episode starts off with our two favorite superheroes of Bikini Bottom, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, kicking it at the Krusty Krab, trying to order what they want for lunch or dinner or whatever the hell time it is over there. And Barnacle Boy's like, man, you know what? I want an adult-sized Krabby Patty. I don't want none of this kiddie meal bullshit. But Mermaid Man's like, man, you will never eat the whole thing. When I get you an adult-sized Krabby Patty, you never eat the shit. So why am I going to get you an adult-sized Krabby Patty? Obviously, he doesn't say it like that, but you know. That's essentially what he says to Barnacle Boy. So Barnacle Boy's like, man, you know what? I'm tired of being disrespected. I'm tired of being seen as your sidekick. I'm tired of being seen as your right hand, essentially. I want to be my own person. I want to be considered a man. I want an adult-sized Krabby Patty. And since he doesn't get the respect from the citizens as well as the adult-sized Krabby Patty from Mermaid Man, that's the big thing of this episode, man. He wants his adult-sized Krabby Patty. He says, you know what? How about I finally turn to the dark side? I don't get no respect. I'm going to evil. I'm going to be evil. And he basically teams up with Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble to terrorize Bikini Bottom. And Mermaid Man eventually ends up siding with SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Sandy. And I want to say someone else. Maybe there's someone I forgot. But he ends up teaming with them to try to take Barnacle Boy down. And there you guys have it. That was a very extensive, somewhat succinct breakdown of this SpongeBob episode. But with all that out of the way, man, let me get into my first impressions and thoughts of this episode. All I gotta say is, man, this was one of my most favorite Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes as a kid, man. Like, if you have a favorite series like SpongeBob was to me, you're gonna have that episode or that character or a string of episodes that don't really appeal to you. And the whole Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy series of episodes throughout the SpongeBob series have always been that to me. They weren't very appealing. I never really gravitated to them like that. But this was one of my favorite Mermaid Man and Barnacle episodes. Obviously, we have to have the whole Wumbo episode in there too when SpongeBob gets Mermaid Man's belt, which I hope to review one day. I plan on doing that. I have to do that, man, for the gang, man. But I'm going to discuss that a little bit more into the review. I want to talk about some of my favorite moments of this episode. And just like any classic episode of SpongeBob, man, that I've seen as a kid, these are littered with great moments. This obviously was more of a comedic episode, somewhat, and it was littered with comedic moments. The first one that I could think of, and I don't want to say it was the best one, because the best one I'm going to save for last, but one of the first moments that I really got a nice, good chuckle out of what was when Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy were at the Krusty Krab. And Barnacle Boy announces that he's going over to the dark side. And the whole restaurant is just blacked out, or at least one side of it, rather. And Mr. Krabs is like, shit, why do you think I'm going to spend money lighting the whole store? Listen, man, that's classic cheap-ass Mr. Krabs, and I freaking love it. Listen, you gotta love that whole penny-pinching nature of our favorite crab homie of Bikini Bottom, man. Speaking of our favorite crab homie, let's talk about the whole scene where Mermaid Man decides he's gonna finally take down Barnacle Boy and Man Ray in the Dirty Bubble. This man gets swayed by an ice cream truck. Ice cream truck pulls up. He's like, you know what, man? I gotta get some ice cream first. You guys already know how it is, man. Before the hero goes into that big old final battle, they gotta have their favorite snack or meal and, you know, all that good stuff. So Mermaid Man orders some straight old people shit. A double scoop of prunes with bran sprinkles. Listen, I love it. I love it. Sticking to the whole old nature of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. That's one thing that separates them from all the other superheroes of any other series. They're old as shit, and they play their character up really well, especially Mermaid Man. I just love how that whole thing is done with him. But anyway, he eats the ice cream, ends up blowing out his fucking stomach, and he says, man, it goes through me every time. Listen, that was a good joke. I liked it. I enjoyed it, man. I freaking enjoyed it. Obviously, we find out it's an attack by the evil trio, I guess you can say. Every villain is lemons. Interesting name, by the way. And when they take off, SpongeBob essentially says he wants to side with Mermaid Man and take them all down. And everyone else joins him. Patrick, Sandy, and Squidward. You gotta love this. Squidward's like, man, I'm not doing this shit. I don't care about this. Mr. Krabs essentially threatens him and says, hell no, you're doing this because no world means no money. So get on out there and hop on that battlefield, boy. And Squidward obviously concedes and does it. You just gotta love how the whole cranky guy, or cranky good guy, I guess you could say Squidward is. He always gets convinced into doing what he doesn't wants to do. Or, well, gets bullied rather. And it's always by Mr. Krabs for the most part. And why does Mr. Krabs do it? Well, obviously money is the ultimate motivator for him, so yeah, there you go. It worked out perfectly, I guess. Another favorite moment of mine of this episode is when they finally meet up with the chief and try to get the whereabouts on the whole evil trio. And the chief's like, yo, man, they're harassing teenagers at Makeout Reef. You know, that's pretty much the whole kissing point, or kissing spot, rather, of all the, you know, hormonally struck out children, teenagers, whatever you want to call them, a bikini bottom, as Mermaid Man put it. And you gotta love how the chief demonstrates on the pillow and whatnot. And Squidward's like, oh yeah, Makeout Reef, good times, good times. And you wouldn't think, especially now in today's age, that a joke like that could be pulled on modern day SpongeBob. Classic SpongeBob, and this is what I loved about it, it flirted with some of those lines like, hey, this is, you can maybe get away with putting this on a kid's TV show. You may not be able to get away with putting this on a kid's TV show. They always flirted with that line, man. And that's something that I cannot see modern SpongeBob doing. And going back to this classic episode and seeing this one little joke be made, I'm like, wow, you think they'd show that on it? Wow, I'm kind of shocked. And obviously, like I said, this isn't the first time that SpongeBob series ever flirted with those lines. Hell, remember the freaking Health Inspector episode, which I reviewed, by the way? And the whole episode where Mr. Krabs ends up eating a poison Krabby Patty, or I guess rotten Krabby Patty, and ends up actually dying, and he goes to see the Flying Dutchman. SpongeBob has a lot of dark episodes in the whole classic, I was going to say series, but rendition of the show. The first 4 seasons, those were some real dark episodes, or at least some of them were. Not all of them, obviously. But some of them flirted with that line, and I mean really played with the line of what they could and could not include on kids' TV shows. Or I say could, what they should and shouldn't include on the kids' TV show. You wouldn't think that kids should be allowed to see Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob not only kill the health inspector in the Nasty Patty episode, but these dudes straight up go through a whole plot of trying to conceal the body. Wow! Listen, that, I'm not even gonna lie, I saw that episode the other day, and that really threw me for a loop of how dark and, I don't want to say demented or deranged, that's the wrong term, but how dark it was for kids to be considered for a TV Y7 program. Oh my lord. And obviously this whole Makeout Reef joke, scene, skit, segment, whatever you want to call it, doesn't compare to that, obviously. You know, every kid teases each other about having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And, you know, I got to mention this really quickly, too, as I'm on this. The whole John and Nancy sitting in the tree, Kissing. Such a kiddie joke. Like, come on, man. This is what SpongeBob is, and I freaking love it. This is why I love classic SpongeBob. Kind of flirts with those lines of what should and shouldn't be included in an episode, or an episode for a kid's series, rather. This episode was just such a wonderful callback to my childhood, man. I really did enjoy it. But enough of this segment. I think I spoke on it enough. Let's go on to my final favorite moment of the episode. After the whole team, excluding Mermaid Man, obviously, gets straight up decimated, I would say by evil, but they get decimated by themselves. The whole trio's like, hey, it's a wrap, Mermaid Man. Give up. You're outnumbered. It's 3-1. You have no ground to stand on, and you got to give in to our demands now. And Mermaid Man just basically is like, all right, you got me. Man Ray and Dirty Bubble were like, yo, we want world domination. Dirty Bubble says, make them eat dirt. And Barnacle Boy walks up to him. He's like, I got 3 demands for you. I want to be treated like a superhero. I don't want to be considered as your sidekick. I want respect. And most importantly, I want an adult-sized Krabby Patty. He essentially forgives Mermaid Man. They do the whole handshake thing and they reunite their powers. And Barnacle Boy rather, comes back on to the good side. And it was just such a heartwarming moment because you see Mermaid Man kind of tear up. He got his friend back. And that episode, listen, I don't care how old I get, or that moment of the episode rather. I don't care how old I get. That scene always just makes me like, oh man, that's just a big rewarding payoff of watching this whole entire thing. And you see Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy essentially make up. And Barnacle Boy comes back to the good side. And they're friends again. They're allies. And everything is restored to what it should be. Now, what I really love about this, you see Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble get 100% pissed off. And Dirty Bubble is essentially talking about the time he went to Cancun with the killer shrimp. And Man Ray's not even trying to hear it, man. He's like, man, shut up, man. I ain't trying to hear this ish. He gets all frustrated. And you can see that Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble, they have some type of duo going on themselves. Just like Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Man Ray obviously is the Hefe. He's the head honcho. Dirty Bubble is the sidekick. And you can just see that by that blatant disrespect that he just gave that man, that bubble. And the final scene where you see Barnacle Boy and the Krusty Krab eating his adult-sized Krabby Patty, and he's like, man, it's so big. I don't think I could finish the whole thing. And everybody just starts cracking up. You see SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Sandy all in their hospital, I would say gear, but they're on their hospital machines, crutches and whatnot. And it's just a nice, hilarious end to the episode. Now, let's cut into this review. Like I said, man, this was a good old classic episode of SpongeBob. And obviously one of my favorite Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes. When you come across any superhero series or duo or whatever, you eventually hit that point where the sidekick's like, I'm not getting enough respect around here. I want to go off on my own. I want to do my own thing. I should be getting more respect. You shouldn't be seen as the Hefe or the number one good guy. I want my recognition. And you get this whole storyline of the sidekick turning against the superhero, either going off and doing their own thing and getting into some type of competition with the superhero, or you get what we got with this Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode. They go over to the dark side in an attempt to show the superhero that, listen, I may be your sidekick, but the main reason why we keep shit in order is because we work as a team. Without me, Bikini Bottom, at least in this case, is fucked. And this episode, I didn't even think about this, but this episode demonstrates that real well. These guys are old, especially Mermaid Man. This dude's ancient, he's senile, he can't defend Bikini Bottom on his own. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy and the rest of evil never really came to blows. Mermaid Man got messed up by that whole old people ice cream cone. And then when it all came down to the final showdown, Mermaid Man had, I guess you could say, honorary superheroes who didn't even know how to use the costumes that they were using. Or working with, rather. And they never came to blows, essentially. They never had a final battle. As I said earlier, the whole crew, Mermaid Man excluded, pretty much took themselves out. Or took each other out. So, they never had a final battle. And I never thought of this that way. But if it really came down to a final battle, Barnacle Boy probably didn't even have to get into it. Man Ray and Dirty Bubble could have took Mermaid Man out by himself. Or themselves, rather. But if Barnacle Boy did get involved, it would have been absolute straight decimation. And this episode at least shows why teamwork is very important, especially to that duo right there. Mermaid Man needs Barnacle Boy. And hell, you can say that Barnacle Boy needs Mermaid Man, but when it comes to defending Bikini Bottom, yeah, Mermaid Man does need Barnacle Boy. They work together great as a team. If they're taken apart, if they're separated, then, it's going to be easy pickings for whatever villain who wants to take over Bikini Bottom and just straight terrorize it. And this episode shows that very, very well. along with showcasing this point combined with the comedic humor, all characters, at least to me, feel like they fit their natural form from, classic era, because, it's still the classic era. So overall, man, I really did enjoy this episode. Rewatching it today gave me another great opportunity of reviewing it and appreciating it for what it is. And I'm going to have to do the rare thing of hitting this episode with, I'm going to go with an 8.5 out of 10. Maybe that's too high. You guys let me know in the comments. But I really did enjoy this episode. I liked how every character just felt true to themselves, Mr. Krabs especially, and Squidward, and all of them, honestly, every single one of them, especially Mermaid Man. I love the whole dynamic between the two, how it showcases that, teamwork makes a dream work, so to speak, and without Barnacle Boy and Mermaid Man working together, Bikini Bottom would be in straight up peril. Like I said, I felt that this episode showcased how Barnacle Boy wants his respect as the sidekick. He wants to be treated with the same respect that's given to Mermaid Man and all that good stuff. And just that heartwarming scene right at the end of this episode was just beautiful, man. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy teaming up once again to be allies. Barnacle Boy once again coming back over to the good side and, getting his respect. And he gets his adult-sized Krabby Patty at the end. And, everything just goes back to normal when Mermaid Man, as predicted, Mermaid Man said, you know what, you can't finish it, and, he didn't finish it. Nice, good laugh to end out the episode. This episode, to me, was all around gold. I really did enjoy it. 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments. What would you rate it, man? This is the Cartoon Kid, Ray Rollins. This has been my review of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. I forget the number. It's in season 4. It's the companion episode of Chocolate with Nuts. And if you're somebody new, first getting into SpongeBob, man, I hope you check this out. But for all the OGs who haven't seen it in a while, go check it out again, man. This is a great episode. And as always, tell me what you think of this episode. Tell me if you loved it. Tell me if you hate it. Tell me what you would rate it. And drop all your opinions, thoughts, comments, concerns down in the comments box below. That's what they're there for. If you haven't done it already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I love you guys. And I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Peace out, everybody.